What's up? This is Patrick. Welcome to Double ETF, Everything Except the Football, episode 12. I hope you guys are doing great. Today I talk with Stevo Doccerson, aka Hub the Troll. We talked about Renaissance fairs, pigs, the birth of Hub the Troll, and what else? There were some unexpected answers to the quirky questions. Music, talked about music, of course, and movies. There were plenty of laughs, of course, and it also got real a few times. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Also, if you want to drop me a line, if you have any comments, you can reach me on Twitter at EETFpod. Also, if you really enjoy what I'm doing, you can drop me a dime at paypal.me/EETFpod. Obviously, all your contributions will go to web hosting or equipment upgrades or stuff like that. This is a hobby and it will stay that way. But any help would be more than welcome. So there you go. So yeah, without further ado, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Stevo Doccerson. Thanks. All right. With me today, I have Stevo Doccerson. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We know each other from Name That Tune. But let's zoom out a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, 39, former professional entertainer, actor. I worked Renaissance festivals for about 18 years, and I've in between that I've worked educational jobs and edutainment, where I'm teaching kids about everything from creative writing to dinosaurs, and I've worked at summer camps. I've written comedy shows. I've worked all sorts of weird jobs, and yeah, I've been a big fan of music and podcasts forever, and that's how I got involved with Rock Solid, and that's how I got to know everyone there. But yeah, just found a way to make my living off of talking at people, which was nice.
But do you have a teaching background, or what kind of background do you have?
So I went to school at the University of Michigan, Flint, for a couple of years. I didn't finish my degree in theater because I realized that I already had a paid acting gig when I was still in school, and I started to miss out on work to go to school to get jobs in what I was already doing. And I realized, oh, okay, well, if I stay here, it's going to take me another, I don't know, because of classes and all that stuff, it would have taken me another year and a half to finish my degree, or I could just start working. So I did. I just kept, I'm like, well, that's the end of that. And just worked in, I went to school for theater and theater design.
Okay.
But a lot of times it would just kind of come up, gigs would show up hey, can you do this for a little bit? And a little bit turned into a little bit longer, turned into a couple months, and then something new came along.
And finishing your degree wouldn't have turned into any improvement with your pay or nothing like that?
No, not really. No, it's all, okay. Yeah, it's all kind of, case by case and gig based. And, before COVID hit, I was the only person in the department that I, in my theater department, who was actually working in theater and actually performing. Everyone else had just kind of moved to something else that wasn't performing or wasn't design. And because I left early, I was still doing it. I don't know. It was weird.
All right. So right now you're in Florida.
Yeah.
St. Petersburg, if I remember.
Yes.
Okay, but you're not from there, are you?
No. I am from the mean streets of Detroit.
Okay.
Until I was 3, and then we moved to very rural Detroit or Michigan. Very, very rural community, and as part of just everybody in the 80s, a lot of people just in the United States, it's just white flight. They moved out of cities to the suburbs, and then if you're too scared of the suburbs, you move to the middle of nowhere, which is what my folks did. And I, lived in a very small town till I was 18. Then I moved to Flint, which is not great. And then I was in London for a hot minute as an educational. Like I went there for school a little bit, but I ended up staying a little bit longer.
You probably mean London, England, and
Yeah.
not London, Ontario.
Well, it was between that and Kitchener, and I'm just like, oh, flip a coin.
Okay.
The mean streets of Guelph. I'm throwing these Canadian references out for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I lived in London, England for a hot minute. It started out as a I thought it was going to be a much more intensive study. It turns out it was one of those what they call a pub study, which is where Americans go over and have like one class and then they drink. And I'm like, oh, I actually came to learn theater. Okay, sure, great. But I made some cool connections over there, and I kind of realized, oh, this is more what I wanted to do anyway. So that was cool. But then I came back to Michigan. Things got a little hairy for a minute, and was homeless for a hot minute, and then moved in with a friend of mine, got things back on track, and that kind of set the trajectory of what's been going on now.
Okay, now I got two questions. The first question would be, how long were you in London?
About 6 months. I thought it was going to be longer. It wasn't.
And you would have stayed longer had you been able to?
Yeah.
All positive from that city, or were you disappointed
I love
it. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a blast there, and it was just like, oh, I get it. Like I'd lived in, like I said, a very rural area, and then I moved to Flint, which by that point had pretty much been abandoned. It's not great.
Jeez.
There are some interesting spaces there. There's a bunch of like really interesting theater. There's some good music coming from there, but just the total lack of infrastructure.
As we know now with water.
That's just what people are seeing. All right. Because it's I'm not going to go into the whole history of Flint, but it used to be just thriving. Then the automotive industry pulled out of there, and it collapsed, and it didn't really recover. And it's just people are just, well, I can't move, I can't sell this house, so they're just there, and it was just a bummer. But I was living in the shell of a city, and then I went to an actual city. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I didn't have to, I realized this is how things should work.
Mm-hmm.
This is,
Wow. And which year are we talking about?
2005, I think. Yeah.
And I got to ask, and feel free not to answer, but what about that homeless situation? How did you deal with that?
I came back, and I was working at the university. At first, it was just like they needed somebody in the costume shop to just help fix stuff and help sew stuff and assemble costumes and all that stuff. And so I trained in that as part of my schooling. So I'm like, well, I'll just keep working here. And then through just a series of mismanagements, the costume shop leaders, the managers kept being let go before, like, there's we do 4 shows in the season. Around the 3rd show, they say, oh, by the way, you should start looking for something else. This is what they would say to, my boss. And it kept happening. And right. And then eventually they said, well, hey, can you be the costume shop manager? And I'm like, this will actually work because I only have another year to go. So let's do this. Let's work this out. And I was working for them, and I found out that instead of being paid by the university, they were taking money from my work study money. And it was just a whole thing where in order for me to work the 40 hours, they cut my pay so it wouldn't they only had a certain allotment of money, so they like, well, let's stretch this out over a couple months. And it was basically slave labor. It was the worst. And so I'm like, well, I'm having to turn down gigs to work here for nothing. Why am I here? And like by that time, I'm just kind of like looking at my bills and saying like, oh, I can't afford to live here anymore. Can't afford to go to school. Can't afford to live here. All right. Well, the next big festival is in 4 months. Let's see what I can do. And so I lived in a van. I lived in my van for a couple of months.
So I guess the next question is, how do you deal with the logistics? Like, do you go like have a shower at the gym, or
Um, I
or
didn't
couch
really.
surfing
Yeah, it
to
was a lot
friends'
of that.
places? Okay.
It was a lot of that. It's just like I just say, hey, can I park my van in front of your place for for a week or whatever, and I would do that, and then just that's when I was doing okay, and feeling stable enough to do that. There were other times where it's just like, oh, go a couple of weeks without showering. You're just using using the Wi-Fi in the parking lot of a fast food place, and you go in there to and I'm looking for work, looking for places to stay, just trying to contact with people in a way where I'm not like, hey, let me stay at your house for a while apropos of nothing. I want to
Mm.
check my feelers out and kind of I didn't want to go back to my folks' house. We don't really get along. And so I also just kind of wanted to see if I could do it because I know a lot of people from the road of Renaissance Festival who are functionally homeless. And I'm like, well, let's kind of do that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So that's
Where it's just
common.
like, for people I know, yeah.
Okay.
Uh, I know some weirdos. I know some folks who live on the, who live on the fringe, and they have a place where they get their mail, and it's just there for everything's digital now. So as long as you have some kind of internet connection, you can make sure your bills are paid, and you can do all that stuff. But as far as like permanent address, it's just kind of whatever. So I knew it could be done, and I did that just for a little bit, and then one of my friends had someone move out, and like I'm like, hey, can I park my van here? He's like, well, you can also just use this room, and then I started working for his mom, just scanning documents. And I was able just to kind of like, okay, I'm starting to pay rent. Good, I'm back in a place. It wasn't it sounds worse than it was. It just
Okay.
like but just for a while I didn't have anywhere. I didn't have an address.
So how long did that period last total?
Um of van living about 4 months, 5 months.
Okay. And what is this? This fascinates me.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I don't
No,
want to
it's
be too
fine.
morbid or anything, but what is the one thing that you wish you knew before starting that period?
Oh, how quickly it could happen.
All
Like
right.
people and that's for a lot of people. There are a lot of people who don't realize that like all it takes is a like one or two big bills, and what do you have left? Like and just knowing about like knowing what your resources are, knowing what uh
Who
yeah
your friends are as well.
exactly, yeah, and also knowing I learned a lot about how do I say this, pressing your advantage, and making sure you're not like overstaying your welcome.
Hmm.
Like because people wanted to help, but I also would just say like you don't want me, I don't want to stay on your couch indefinitely. I want
Yeah. You don't want to be a leech.
yeah, and I don't want to I don't want to get myself into that mindset of like, hey, this is okay, even
Mhm.
though in many cases it would have been.
Mhm.
And there were people who, if they knew how bad it was, they would have said like, no, you're staying here. But I'm stubborn, and I wanted to have a little bit more control over the situation. So
And I guess it must feel pretty shitty to feel that people are starting to take pity on you.
oh yeah, yeah,
That has to
yeah.
be really bad for self-esteem.
Hmm.
And also, I don't remember the exact number, but there is an alarming percentage of households in the US who basically live paycheck to paycheck.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's something to think about,
Oh
I
yeah.
guess. You mentioned your parents a few moments ago. What did they do for a living? Were they involved in theater or arts or
No,
something?
no. Um, my mom was a nurse. She worked urgent cares when I was a kid, and then she started working at hospitals, helping out with in the operating room. So she would do that. My dad managed body shops. There's in Michigan. There's something like one in, I don't know, six works for the automotive industry in some way or in another.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what the statistics of that are now or were then, but yeah, my dad worked in a body shop. He was the manager, and people would bring their cars in totaled, and he'd fix it, or he'd have other people fix it rather, and then we'd come home and nobody would speak to each other. It was that. I've got a younger sister. We never really got along until recently. She's still in Michigan, and we've kind of bonded over the fact, like, hey, mom and dad are nuts, right? Yeah. So, I mean, looking at the positive side, that's a real positive thing. She's, she's a real good person, and we've been able to, talk about stuff. And I've been, hey, so yeah, I was terrible. I'm sorry. I was dealing with all of this stuff. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. You were dealing with that. Well, that makes sense. So,
What does she do
yeah.
for a living?
She is a teacher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I suppose, I mean, I don't want to answer that question. You answer the question, but I guess they didn't really approve of your choices with, theater and all.
It's not really approving. They just never understood it. They never got it.
Okay.
It was like when I first started doing, Renaissance festivals, I remember my dad saying, like, oh, you'll do this for like a season and you'll get bored with it. And I'm like, no, this is the first time I've ever done anything where it feels like, oh, this makes sense. I'm able to use all these weird skills that I've developed over the years. And like, my mom's supportive, but in the way where she just was like, well, I know this is important to him, so I better try to make sure I'm paying attention to that. So, yeah.
Better than nothing, I guess.
I guess so. It's just weird. Yeah.
What about Renaissance fairs interested you in the first place?
Well, they were nearby. I grew up where I grew up. There was one like right down the street, and they always talk about like, oh, you ran away and joined the circus. Well, the circus comes to you. You just kind of leave with them.
Okay.
When they go.
Mm.
And it was just the first time I'm seeing, lots of different kinds of live theater, lots of different kinds of variety, lots of different comedy. I saw this. It sounds silly, but it had such an effect on me. There's this guy who is a ventriloquist, but he didn't do the whole like, oh, I'm not, like I'm going to talk and this dummy's going to talk. He would just wear a bag over his head and just have the puppet talk. And his name was Dead Bob. And I just remember seeing like, oh, this guy is just making heaps of cash and he's making people laugh and doing that. Yes. Yeah. Cool.
You're in. Sign me up.
I've found what I want to do, and it's right here. And oh man, it was just incredible. And yeah, I saw that, and it's just like, yeah, okay, well, and it was right there. But I would see, it's called a Renaissance fair, but it's all sorts of like, fantasy and wizards and shit, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of like a fantasy fest as well. So I know the podcast, you talk about sports. I wasn't much of a sports guy as much as I knew a lot about Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. And it's like, okay, all of my interests are kind of coinciding right here. There's a sword, there's comedy, and there's music. I know about these things, so.
you always had a knack for music, for example.
Yeah, and as much as I give my folks and family a hard time, we're a very musical family. I had a very good musical education. Music was always on at the house. My sister was the first one to start taking piano lessons, and she kind of gave that up pretty quickly. And I started up just as I think it was just as a way for my parents to be like, okay, give him something to do. And I would play the piano. I would take these lessons, and I'm like, I don't want to play piano. I want to play guitar. They're like, well, you'll be able to play guitar later, but you'll know the basis of you'll know song structure and all that kinds of stuff
Hmm.
with piano, which is true. But I didn't. I had an all right teacher, but she wasn't really stoking the fires of creativity. I kind of had to do that myself. So like I took piano lessons from like I don't know 7 to 11 maybe, and it was like every 2 weeks I had a lesson, and then everything else I just kind of learned by myself.
Oh, wow. Okay. But you play other, I mean, we know, but
Yeah.
what else do you play besides piano?
So guitar,
Hmm.
bass, banjo, piano, accordion. I can pretty much if it has strings or keys, I can play it.
Wow.
I could just kind of figure it out. Also, yeah, I was in band for 1 year just playing the trombone, but I don't remember any of it. Yeah,
And were you in bands in high school?
yeah. I played bass in this band in high school, and that was all right. I definitely learned how to be in a band, and it's yeah, it's different than a lot of other things because like being in a band, it's working. It's everybody's working for the same thing,
Hmm.
but one person is kind of like directing like hey let's go in this direction. Everybody else has to kind of like go with them and want to go there.
Yes,
You all have to be sharing a direction, otherwise the band isn't going to do well.
true. And what kind of music did you play?
We were playing skiffle. We were doing we were
What's
well
that?
well it's we were called the Teddy Boys, and the Beatles when they were in Germany, they were a skiffle group. it's
Ah,
it's
okay.
it's that kind of stuff. It's
Okay.
um uh yeah, skiffle music.
I don't remember hearing that word before. Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
cool. And while you were in London, did you consider going to Liverpool, for example, visit the
I
Beatles Museum or something?
so when I'm in I this is interesting because I've traveled over the US quite a little bit, but whenever I go to a place, I don't go to um like I want to go to like where the locals eat. I want to see just like okay, how do you live here? I didn't really so like people were gonna go to we're gonna go to Abbey Road and do the photo. I'm like, no, don't do that. You're gonna get like you're just gonna get in people's way.
Yeah,
Someone is on their way to work.
yeah,
I wasn't as much interested in that as I am, just kind of like going around and like, oh, okay, this is where this is, or this is where this is. But I didn't get up to Liverpool. I went to Leeds,
mm,
uh, hung out there, saw some shows there, and then I went to Stratford upon Avon, hung out with my friends there. And I would just when I was visiting, I would just go to like whatever place was having local music there, and I would just see that.
okay.
I was much more interested in like what's going on here now as opposed to like a museum or whatever.
And I suppose it's the music scene that you enjoyed the most about London.
I just enjoyed just how fascinating like this is how this works. Like this is how a city works. Like I can get from one side to the other in various different ways. One of my favorite things to do is I would just take the tube from where I was staying in High Street, Kensington, which is very fancy. I would just take it as far away as I could, and then I just walk back
Okay.
without a map, and I'm just like, I know I can figure this out. And it was fascinating because also I was in my 20s. I was also super. I was kind of depressed, and it wasn't like I don't care if I die, but at the same time, I just came from Flint. What are they going to do? Not shoot me? You know? Yeah. It wasn't as a feeling of invincible, but it was just like I was just walking around being like, I am the furthest away from anybody who like really cares about me, and I'm surviving.
And anything after Flint is an upgrade.
Well, at the time, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
and I know people who are still there now, and they're doing their best, and they're building on top of what is left behind, and I absolutely understand that and respect that. But for me, it was just kind of seeing like, oh, this also works, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned you traveled across a fair bit of the U.S., but you've lived in Michigan and Florida and somewhere else as well, or?
Well, you'll forgive me about not having all the details of all those 4 months, but
okay.
From knowing different people and knowing people all over the country from working festivals, I would just go to different places and just kind of like hang out for a week or 2 or 3 weeks, and then just kind of move on, or just drive around. You can like as long as I had about $1,000 to my name, and as long as the vehicle's running and I got enough for gas, that's all right.
Yeah, can last a fair bit with that, I guess.
And what I found I could do is I would busk. I would play music for cash, and I've found that the best place to do that was at soft serve ice cream places.
Okay.
And it was like as soon as I kind of realized, oh, this is the perfect place to do that. I would make sure that I was wearing as clean of clothes as I had. I'd go to the laundromat before, and so I didn't look entirely homeless and grody. I would go and play outside of ice cream places at around 3:30 to 6:30.
Okay.
It was a pretty good time because people are in a good mood. They're standing around. They might have kids. They're on a date, and I'm not. I'm just playing. Classic rock. I'm just playing really just stuff that people kind of know. And yeah, maybe they throw a buck in, maybe they don't. But I just felt like, well, I'm not panhandling. I'm performing.
Yeah.
It's just, but yeah, that was, so I kind of traveled around, but yeah, I've seen a lot of the country, but just from a van.
You had your instruments with you in your van. Which one did you have total?
I was playing, well, I had, some of my bigger stuff. I did like leave it at the place where I eventually ended up staying. Like I had some higher end sound equipment that I'm just like, hey, I know you record a lot of stuff here anyway. Do you want to just kind of hold on to this and use it if you want? But at the time, I just had my my acoustic guitar with me, I think, and some harmonicas.
Okay, nothing more. Okay, I thought you would have a couple of other things just in case.
Well, I mean, I had them, and they were up. They were up in Michigan, but I think I might even had a ukulele at that time, just because I don't remember.
That's all right. I was wondering also the Hub the Troll persona.
Yes.
You came up with it for the Renaissance fairs, I suppose.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, or is it recent?
So I started out. I knew I wanted to be some kind of like magical something or other. So I started off as Puck, and yeah, and so I had like goat legs, and I had horns, and I made some. This is when I was still living at home. I made some hooves out of sheet metal, and yeah, I attached them to some boots that I had on, and like, they were just punk rock as hell. But I remember just like wearing that, but they put you in the children's dell if you're like a magical creature, and I'm like, well, I don't want to do this for longer, because people would just leave their kids there with a wooden sword for a couple hours while they went and drank, and I'm like, nope, I gotta go. So the next year I auditioned with, I'm like, I'm gonna make a character that's so like gross and gnarly that they won't let me, like they don't want me to scare kids. So I came up with this troll character named Hob, and Hob in the beginning was a lot more creepy looking, a lot more scary. I still had the teeth, but they weren't as big, and they were like I would wear like one yellow contact, and I was a lot more severe. I was like I'd sit on the bridge and kind of look surly. And what happened is people would just call me ugly to my face.
Oh,
They
wow.
they would like shake their kid at me. They're like, "Look at that ugly troll." And one day I just like kind of like, "You think I'm ugly?" And they're like, no, oh, I'm sorry, you're nice. And I just kind of realized, oh, I have control. I can make, and I had control over the reaction to me in a way that I had never seen before. I'm like, oh, well, I can mess with this.
Yes.
And then I just started being obnoxious, but I started playing him as a kid left unsupervised.
Mm-hmm.
And just being and then like, yeah, I started singing obnoxiously, and yeah, some guy who was just like 7 beers in the sun. Oh, and that's pretty common. Just like, I'll give you $5 to stop singing. And I'm like, aha. And
now you got them.
oh my God. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, all right. I can get more by singing poorly. And that's when I'm like, well, how can I up my obnoxious game? And that's when I bought the accordion. That's absolutely true. I didn't know how to play it when I bought it. I'm just like, well, I'll figure it out. And I did. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah. That's literally how that happened. I bought an accordion just to make noise with it, and now I play the accordion. So
wow. How long did it take you to pick it up, the basics, and be functional with it?
Oh, pretty quickly, because it's like I said, I knew piano, so the right hand, I bought a piano one, so like the right hand is the piano, and then the left hand, I realized, oh, it's chords. So you've got, and it's laid out in circle fifths, so you don't have to, like, as soon as, if you know where one thing is, you're not having to jump all over the place.
Okay.
And from playing guitar, it's just like, okay, this, it made sense in my brain, and I was able to pick it up pretty quickly.
You mentioned something a few minutes ago when you auditioned to Renaissance fairs. Is that how it works? I have no idea how it works.
Well, yeah, I auditioned for Resident Cast, which is at the festivals, and different shows do it differently. But what I did, pardon me, my goodness. Oh,
I'll try and cut that out, or maybe I'll leave that in.
Oh, yeah, the guy who's talking about working Renaissance festivals and being homeless belched. Oh heavens. Let go of those pearls, my dear.
Where's the fainting couch?
Right. The vapors. So what they the one I was working for had, you had Resident Cast, which is like, this is a place for people to cut their teeth and, kind of get out in front of performing people. And they were kind of like the villagers. You had, people would audition to be like, oh, we're going to be the bakers, or we're going to be, dirt farmers, or we're going to be, we're going to be peasants. We're going to be, I want to be, part of the Queen's Guard. And that's Resident Cast. And then there's the independent. So the touring professionals. So like, people who have a stage show that they take from venue to venue, and like the stage acts and the independents are hired independently, and they're the ones, actually making money, collecting tips. And I started off as Resident Cast, but then very quickly befriended a lot of the independent stage acts, and they said, well, you could actually do this as what's called street. So here's how to work on getting that contract. And that's what I ended up doing. For a lot of places, the Resident Cast is kind of an apprenticeship,
okay.
To something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I don't want to be nosy, but what kind of money are we talking about when you work those things?
So, Resident Cast is almost nothing. It's like I said, it's more of an internship. It's also an excuse for you to play dress up with your friends and entertain people and meet new friends and kind of get a taste of what it's like to see the production of things. As an independent stage act, I would get a day rate,
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty good for what I was doing, and then you'd also get tips.
Okay.
So, and then in your contract you have, different permissions to sell merchandise, or, if you have stuff already and you don't want to like do it yourself, you can then sell that to the venue, who can then they are the ones that sell it. It all depends, but for when I started doing that professionally and without kind of going into all of the details, I was able to. I've never lived a very extravagant lifestyle. I don't really have a lot of um yeah, I've always like my cars have been always pretty old. And you can save a lot of money if you're just, if you know how to live inexpensively. Um
Absolutely.
so I was but when I found, like, okay, so when I was able to move in with my buddy Andy, and I was working for his mom for a little bit, I was able to work the show up in Michigan and work the show in Florida, and just kind of have a little bit of side gigs and still make enough to make rent every month, have food on the, have food in my belly. I was enough to that was enough to survive. And then as it went further and further along, like I said, I've been doing this for 17 years. My contracts have gotten larger, and I get more of them.
Okay.
And so, as far as ranges go, I know people who are professional stage acts who, like, oh, I just do this show as kind of like a throwaway on the weekends, and like maybe their day rate is like something like 100, like $75 to $100 a day, plus they get all the tips. To people who get, like, just in their contract just for showing up, like $600 a day just for showing up, in addition to tips. Yeah, so it varies greatly, and also like the size of the show versus where it is and all that kinds of stuff. So it varies greatly.
I guess I was thinking about Florida. Was there something specific that led you there, or just the fact that maybe the weather is nicer, so you can have more events all year round?
Yeah. When I would come down here, I met some people who they were they're my fairy godparents.
Okay.
Howard and Roberta, and they would set me up with a lot of corporate gigs where it's just like, hey, do you want $100 to dress in a costume like you're an old paparazzi and bother people who are going into a conference center for an hour? Yes, I do. Like, do you want to pretend you're a pizza chef and throw around these like rubber pizza dough things for a little bit, and it's $100? Yeah, I'll do that. And I was able to just kind of pick a lot more of those up. And I knew quite a few other people who had moved from uh you know uh from Michigan down here, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, I'll know people down here.
Hmm.
I'll have a little bit more of a support system. I know people who've worked at the fair here, and it was like, well, it's as good a place as any. So yeah.
Makes sense. Which one do you enjoy most? Is it the acting part or the music part?
um it's I don't know if I see a difference for me.
Okay.
Like, I'm able to, when I'm doing music, I have a lot more control over it,
Mhm.
because I'm pretty much doing everything. But when I'm performing, it's a lot more of a collaboration, with my fellow performers and the audience, and that's, it's different. It's a different kind of meal.
Okay. I'm trying to remember. Did you work in different music stores at some point?
Yeah, so I've, and this is just kind of a thing that I've done, like, around. I've had all sorts of, other side gigs in addition to working, festival. Like, I worked retail all throughout high school and a little bit into college. I worked comic book stores, and then recently I was working at a record store. But I would also work concert venues and sell merch as well.
Ah, okay.
So I've done it all. I've tightened screws. I've been under the lights. Yeah, worked sound, all sorts of it. When people talk about performance and like live entertainment, there is there's what you see and there's like behind the scenes, but you kind of end up knowing how everything is made. You kind of end up realize like if you're resourceful, that is like being able to do a lot of things, being able to be a jack of all trades is super helpful, is what I found. Yeah.
So, which part of the entire process do you enjoy the most?
I like performing a lot more. It's there's good things about everything, and you become a better performer if you know how to do all those things. If you know, like, if you know, yeah, I don't I don't have to add anything to that. It's just no. It's knowing how everything works makes you a better performer.
All right. And if we can stay or maybe just turn a little bit into music, what would be your top 3 bands?
So it's hard to say, and you've asked everybody else this, and I'm like but it's legit, and I think the bands and the musicians that have kind of shaped me the most, Elvis Costello. Mm-hmm. Like I remember listening to him like really young. It was like one of the things like my dad would listen to him a lot, and I had like cassette tapes that his friends would make for me that I would listen to, and I didn't realize, I'm listening to the Armed Forces album. But yeah, so Elvis Costello, They Might Be Giants showed me what you could do with music. Like I like Zappa a lot, but They Might Be Giants is kind of like, hey, let's do all that, but without the sex and booze. Let's just kind of get into the like. I didn't really identify with what Zappa was doing, but They Might Be Giants were kind of trying to do the same kind of thing in terms of like, let's make music weird, but not intentionally weird. It's just like, here's what you can do with this. Mm-hmm. So, and also here's how to record, and here's how to make things really interesting with limited, like with a drum machine, a guitar, and an accordion, and you can come up with a cool song. I really identified with that. And then, Stephen Malkmus, he was in this band Pavement in the 90s that people have heard of, but everything that he has done just really, it hits something in my brain. Huh. And every time he puts out anything new, I'm like, well, I'm going to spend, that's like, I don't buy anything faster than that. I'm just like, yep, purchased and listen to it. And it's great. Wow. It might take a couple listens to kind of figure out like, what's he trying to do? Oh, I see what he's trying to do with this. I get it. But yeah, I can listen to, anything that he has done and really enjoy it. Still, even if I've heard it dozens and dozens of times, because you get burned out after bands for a while, Yep. Like if this is for everybody. They listen, they find a band that they really like, and they listen to the whole catalog, and they're like, I don't really have to listen to that. Forget. Like I love They Might Be Giants, but they've released a couple albums I haven't bought. I don't know if they're good or not, but Stephen Malkmus and his stuff, solo or with the Jicks, which is his band he plays with. I'm really into them.
Where is he from?
Originally, I think he's from Portland, and then Pavement was in California. I don't and I don't feel the need to there's a lot of stuff where I'll do like a deep dive about everything about that person and all that kind of stuff. With him, I've never really wanted to, because he's from California, and I could research more, but I don't know if I want to. I just kind of like, you will like give me the music and I will enjoy it. And
sometimes you don't need to know more, you enjoy the music. That's good enough.
Yeah. And like, I've met him, and it was just like, oh, okay, there he is. Hi. I liked this album you did. That was really cool. Have a good set. And that, like, because I didn't want it to be any more than that, You
don't want to risk spoiling it in a way, just in case he turns out to be an asshole,
Yeah, and I didn't want that.
How old is he?
I don't know. He's like 50s, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, probably. I think yeah, mid 50s.
All right. Okay. If you want, we can switch to the standard questions.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so question number one. What is your favorite music movie?
Stop making sense.
Okay.
It is. Um, I will watch it once a year when I'm just kind of like, I'll just decide, oh, I'm going to watch Stop Making Sense, and I'll clear my living room, and I'll drink a bunch of water, and I'll just put it on, and I it happens differently every time, but I'm getting up and dancing.
Oh,
Like
wow.
it moves me to get out of my seat and dance in my own home.
Okay.
It
Good
it
enough.
fills me it fills me with such joy. I it's phenomenal. It's that's what music should do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And what's your least favorite one? What's the one that you remember hating?
Grease.
All right.
I've never understood the appeal of that. I do not care for that. I hate that it is that like that summer night song was a staple in karaoke. I can't stand it. Don't like the performances. Don't care for the concept. I think it's gross. The worst. And you know what? That could be somebody's favorite movie. You're allowed to like it. I just don't.
Okay, sure. That works. What about books? What is your favorite book related to music?
So, um, I was listening to the other episodes, and Bagford talked about the Frank Zappa book, which I read, but in that he says something to the equivalent of like writing about music is like dancing about literature.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I've never like if I want to learn about if I want to read about music, I'd rather just kind of like listen to it. But I've read different autobiographies that are pretty interesting. You know, Cash by Johnny Cash is very good. I remember reading No Blacks, No Dogs, No Irish by Johnny Rotten and I read that in rural Michigan trying to identify with anything, and I'm just like, oh, okay, he just hates things. Okay, I hate
Yeah.
things too. But
The,
that
the, ti- the title kind of gives it away.
Yeah, but but well, it was kind of in reference to like how the punks weren't really wanted where they were, and just feeling alienated from everything, and just kind of building your own thing. So I identified with that. Also, I'm very much an audio learner. I have a hard time sitting down and reading a thing. Um, so I would listen to like Jello Biafra of the Dead Kennedys had a bunch of spoken word albums, and I would listen to those and just go on long, long walks.
Nice.
And so like I've all of his lectures and all of that kinds of stuff. But in terms of books about music, I haven't really, you know, read a lot, which is, weird because I used to work at a bookstore that sold records or a record store that sold books, whichever way you want to look at it.
All right. Well, I mean, it takes a time commitment and it takes focus. And sometimes,
Yeah.
life doesn't let you have both, you know?
Right, and with my brain, it doesn't really lend itself to that. And but I do want to say that there's a book called Geek Love by Catherine Dunn. It's a novel. It's fiction, and it is. There's part of it where I'm reading that like a friend of mine referred to it as it's the on the road for Renaissance Festival performers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's yeah. So I'll throw that in as a substitute. I think everyone should read it, but it's really upsetting and beautiful and haunting and romantic and disgusting. And if you read it, if you want to take my recommendation, there is a before and after there of like when you read this book and after you read this book,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
pretty interesting. Yeah,
Okay. All right. So noted. Question three. What was your first concert?
we lived very close to Pine Knob, which was a big music venue in Clarkston, and Auburn Hills. So we always would go to that pretty regularly. So I had seen. The short answer is it's hard for me to say and remember because I went to so many. Like I saw the Grateful Dead a few times before I was 8,
Jesus.
which is irresponsible. But we would go and see, folk music shows, and like I remember seeing live music as far back as I remember some relatives.
Wow.
I remember one of the I went to a show with the first concert where I'm like, hey, can this person is performing? Can we go see them? Was Mr. Dress Up? Yeah,
You crossed the border for that?
Oh yeah, well no, because he came over because Michigan and he came over because we would get the PBS stations.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, so like we got that, and the Sharon Lois and Bram and the Elephant Show and Fred Penner. I think it might have even been a double bill of Fred Penner and Mr. Dress Up. That was the
and Detroit is pretty much like you cross the bridge and you're in Canada. So,
but that was the first where I'm like, hey, that's an act that I wanted to see, and like I enjoy this music. Even though it's like music, for kids, like I think that counts because like I wanted to see them, and like yeah. But then I would see, I remember seeing The Dead Milkmen with Mojo Nixon and Goober and the Peas at a very young age and being like, oh, I shouldn't be here. Oh.
God.
Oh, my. Yeah, I'll hold your beer, adult, while you go to the bathroom. Sure.
I'll hold your joint. Wow.
These are the cigarettes that Uncle Jerry has, and when he has them, he's in a real good mood.
Exactly. So maybe that leads well to question 4. What is your favorite or most memorable concert?
So I mentioned Goober and the Peas. I have since worked for them. I've gotten to know Mr. Miller quite well from working for his other band, Blanche. And I was helping him out doing something, and he was talking about a Goober and the Peas kind of reunion show, and I'm like, well, that's going to be great. And I kind of mentioned casually, I'm like, he's like talking about covers he might do and throw into the set, and I'd mentioned Radar Love by Golden Earring just as kind of like a throwaway, and like I watched the switch flip, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe. And so I'm working the merch table at the back of the venue, and the stage is right up there, so I'm not up close, but I can see everything and everybody. And they come back for the encore with that, and it just blew my mind. I don't think they'd played live in, I don't know, something like 15 years, maybe even longer, maybe like 20 years they hadn't played live or something. And I kind of got to be a little bit behind the curtain, and then also enjoy it as someone who is just watching the show. And it was incredible.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, question 5 would be, what was the scariest concert crowd you've ever been caught in? Maybe a mosh pit or something.
Yeah, there was it was a local show. It was this band called 19 Wheels that was they were a Detroit band, and they also played on the west side of the state. And I think it was on the west side of the state, and they were kind of a rock band that was more on the side of pop, but I really liked them, and they were sharing the bill with this kind of hardcore punk band, and like two very different camps of fans.
Yeah.
But then like in the hardcore fans, and like I've been to hardcore shows too. I get it, but I understand, but you know what energy you're going into when you go to a show, and I just wasn't expecting that. And like, something happened, stuff broke bad, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm taking the merch and I'm taking the cash box, and I'm going to go and I'm going to be in my car and wait till this kind of blows over. And I don't even remember if the band ended up playing or not. I don't remember if I think they ended up playing, but it was a shorter set.
Nice. I can understand. Question 6. Is there a band that turned you into a fan after you saw them live?
Yes, there's a band called the Octopus Project. They are, uh, I'll say indie rock, but it's art rock. There was a theremin involved. They are incredible. I know it's a hard it's going to be a hard sell to a lot of your listeners. I don't know if I don't know if, but no, they're really trippy. They have like if you like the Flaming Lips, you'll really like these guys. But um they had a bunch of different projection screens. It was not only was the music incredible, but also just like the presentation of everything was really good. And it was um I bought I bought 3 of their CDs that they had just there. Like I rated the merch table and they're like, oh, we're out of this and this. And I bought them. I bought the catalog within I think a week, you know?
Wow.
And it's just like, oh, this is all I'm going to listen to for for a month, and I still listen to them. I don't listen to them as much, but it was just like I'd never heard of them. I saw them live, and then I bought everything, and they're incredible. The Octopus Project.
Nice. Okay, so next question. Question number 7. What is your most memorable or favorite brush with fame? Doesn't have to be music related. Could be anyone.
Let's see. I like this story. I've told it a couple of times, but so when I was working, I'd work concerts for Blanche, which was the guy from Goober and the Peas, his other band, and the banjo player. It's kind of like Blanche is kind of like a dark Americana band. The banjo player is the bass player for the Raconteurs.
Okay.
Jack White's other band. And I've met Jack White a handful of times. And Brendan Benson, who's the other one of the other guys in that band, I'm a huge fan of. So every time I've met him, it was just Chris Farley talking to Paul McCartney. Just, do you remember when you put out Lapalco? That was awesome. So, but he was there, and like I'm trying to deal with that. But I look over to this, like it was after a Raconteur show that I'd worked, and I'm backstage, and oh, hi Iggy Pop, and Iggy Pop is as tall as me. I'm 5'5". Jack White is like 6'5", and we were trying to figure out this. It was a bagel toaster, but it had a conveyor belt. And we're trying to figure it out, and it was just so surreal because there's Iggy Pop, and he's got his big shoe. He's got his little shoe. He's got no shirt. He's got a suit jacket. And I was wearing a Syd Barrett shirt that I made. Syd Barrett, the guy from Pink Floyd, the original member. And like I was into making stencils and silk screens. So I'd made this Syd Barrett shirt, and I'm just kind of freaking out trying to figure this out. And meanwhile, Iggy Pop is talking to me like, oh, it's Syd. That's fucking cool, man. Did you make that? I'm like, yes, Mr. Pop, I certainly did. Would you like an everything bagel? Because it's going to be a minute. And he's like, oh, call me Jim. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. But no, he like we talked for a while, and I have no memory of it other than that. I think I sold a shirt that I made to one of his friends. Just like, yeah, she wrote down her address on a napkin and gave it to me and said like, yeah, if you mail this to me, great. If you forget about it, that's fine too.
Nice.
And
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
I think it was the artist Niagara Detroit. Do a Google search of her work, you'll be like, oh, it's her. Yeah, I sold her a shirt.
Okay.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
Yeah, I bet. Question 8. What piece of music memorabilia would you like in your house?
Oh, geez. That's a good one. I'd like to have a bullhorn used by Tom Waits. I think that would be incredible.
That works.
Because it's something I could have on a shelf, and people are like, oh, a bullhorn. I'm like, yeah. That's one of Tom Waits' one. He had a dozen in his truck. He's like, I think a bullhorn owned by Tom Waits would be pretty cool.
Good call. Good call. I got another series of questions if you're up for it.
Absolutely.
All right. Question one. Would you rather speak all languages or play all musical instruments?
So I've thought about this a lot. Like when I was listening to the other episodes, it seemed that most people said languages. Am I right?
I've noticed that people who travel most say languages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, personally, I suck at musical instruments, and I work into languages, so I would definitely pick languages. But that's just me, you know.
Because here's the thing. All right, with languages, it's there's a like with languages, it's not only speaking it but being able to understand.
Yes,
Those are two entirely different concepts.
absolutely.
And with music, you only need for the other person to understand what you're trying to do, you only need to hear it. All right.
Yes.
So like when I heard it, I'm like, I play a lot of instruments already. I think I'd pick languages, but then I thought about that a little bit. And I have a hard enough time relating to people in my own language. And that's it's funny, but it's also honest. Like one of the reasons that I guess, people think, like I'm funny, but a lot of that comes from me just trying to relate to people and trying to communicate to people all this weird shit that's going on in my head. And I think that if I were to do that with other languages, I'd still be I just reach a wider group of people who I don't know if I'd necessarily be able to connect with. I'd be able to communicate with them, but I'd only be able to communicate them in so far as what I'm able to say and what they're able to listen to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, but for example, okay, so when you were to London, did you go in Europe?
No.
Like continental Europe? Okay. So the example I had in mind for that is when I was in Turkey,
Mm-hmm.
If I had the choice between like playing one of their traditional
Mm-hmm.
instruments or asking the guy, all right, tell me about the history of your family in this village for the
Yeah.
last, 2000 years. I mean, to me, I would love to be able to, like, I've been to a fuckload of places that I didn't speak the local language, and I would have loved to be able to, you know?
So it's more no, because what that gets to is really the root of the question, which is would you rather listen or would you rather speak?
Transmit, yes.
Yes. Receive
Okay.
or transmit. I love that's the best way to say it. And
Okay.
I don't know, with that in mind, I like if I could alter it, I'd be able to understand every language and not speak it.
Okay.
Because then it comes down to I don't need I wish I could hear what people would want to say in the same way that what people when they listen to music what they feel, if that makes sense. But as far as like that goes, I'd say every instrument. And it's for my own selfish purposes, but also because like as much as I want to hear more people's stories and I want to understand more people and what life is like for them, I don't know that I'd be able to express myself in words as much as I would be able to express myself in music.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I mean, obviously, okay, maybe it's cheating a little bit. I would like to understand all languages, but play all musical instruments.
Well, I know, but like it wouldn't be all instruments. I'd cut it off. Like it's just like I'd be able to play what I want to already. Like I play some instruments I already know. I'd be able to play those as good as I possibly can. I wouldn't be able to learn the oboe or anything like that.
You'd be good for that with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to, as a bonus, I'd like to be better at the drums. I am infamously awful at the drums. I can program them. I can understand what I want, but in terms of getting my arms and legs to work, I am not good.
You're better than me. Still.
Well, you haven't seen me behind a drum set.
I can play rock band, but on an actual set, I'm useless. Anyway, that's the longest answer to that question ever. So that's good.
Well, I figured it might be.
No, but it's interesting. I mean,
I love that question though. It's fantastic.
thanks. I didn't come up with it, but I thought it was a good one. And of course, they are supposed to be quick,
Yeah,
quote
yeah.
unquote, quirky, but it doesn't matter. If there is a conversation to be made out of any questions, quick or not.
Oh, that one has been in my craw
Good
since I first heard you asking it. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah.
All right. I like the fact that my dumb podcast it creates so much emotions. Oh,
Yeah,
I've been
man.
agonizing about this question for weeks.
Yeah,
All right. I'll take that as a compliment.
absolutely.
All right, awesome. Question 2. If you could get a ticket to any show or event, music or sports, past or present, what would you want a ticket to?
See, part of me wants it to be like, just like an open air fanfare kind of like like a really old circus. Like that's the answer I want to give. But I don't know if I'd actually be able to enjoy that. I think I'd be able to I'd just like enjoy saying that I went instead. So, I would have liked to have seen Zappa.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't matter. Like if it was just like any really good show he did, it was just like I would trust whatever magical force I was able to buy the ticket from. I would trust them to like, hey, a really good Zappa show that might or might not have been recorded. Just yeah.
All right. Okay, that works. Question 3. What is your favorite insect?
Cicada.
Mm-hmm. Any reason?
I relate a lot to them where they they spend a lot of time in dirt and then they come out of the ground to scream. I relate to that very much.
All right. Yeah,
No, they're great bugs. Big fan.
All right. Okay. Question 4. Which scene from a movie scarred you for life?
I was way too young to see this, so a little bit of history, and I know these are quick, but real quick. The Disney Channel was channel 22, and HBO was channel 24. I remember this very distinctly. There was no channel 23 on the cable box, so it was Disney Channel or HBO. And I would wake up before my family, and I'd put on the Disney Channel. Except one day, my parents didn't switch it from the Disney Channel to HBO, so I turned on the TV to see the shower scene in Full Metal Jacket.
Oh my god.
Yep. And I was like, oh no.
The bathroom scene, the latrine scene, but yeah.
Yeah, yep.
Holy
and I
shit.
I was just like, oh, this is why, this is why they have ratings on movies. I should not be seeing this. This is...
How old were you?
4.
Oh my god. Wow.
I was like, yeah. I think it was like 4 years old.
Jesus. Okay, that qualifies for sure. Ouch. Wow. Question 5. What is the best nickname you've ever heard?
My friend Dan, his dad, his name is Marion, but he goes by Skip. And as Dan said, he's like, I didn't see my dad a lot growing up, so Skip is a very accurate nickname.
Okay. That works.
A fun story about that, Dan named a dog that he had Skip just to bother his dad.
Okay.
So that, like, he would just say, he'd be talking to his dad and he's like, Skip, don't shit on the floor. And his dad was right there. It's just like, yeah, I love that nickname. I love that story.
It's a good one. Yeah, there's nothing like creating a nickname to piss off somebody else.
Yeah. Well, like everyone called him Skip because, Marion isn't a very manly name for this guy. Like if you see like what are you going to call this guy, Marion or Skip? You're going to call him Skip.
Oh, that was his first name.
Yeah, his first name is Marion, but everyone calls him Skip.
Okay. I was okay for a second. I thought it was his last name.
Nope.
Okay, all right. Marion, wasn't it John Wayne whose
maybe
name? I think. But anyway, doesn't matter. Question 6. What would you name your boat if you had one?
I like this because I want it to be like one of those. I like the nautical puns ones that you see, where it's like a naughty buoy.
Nice.
Um, I think it would be. I think it would be David Bowie. I think that would be a
Oh
funny.
God.
Yeah.
But I mean, the tradition is that boats should have a woman's name.
Sure.
Don't
Yeah.
care. It doesn't matter.
I think it's funny. I think it's funny.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Question 7. Where is the worst smelling place you've ever been?
Other than my van when I was living in it. Uh, uh yeah. So I one of my first jobs I ever had, I worked at a dairy farm.
Hmm.
And like the cows were right there, the pigs were right there, and it smelled strong. But everyone's like, oh, the smell, like, cow dung is bad. It's After you've been around it a while, you get used to it,
Hmm.
and you kind of realize, oh, this is just their food, and it's been in their body not just a little bit longer because they've eaten it. They've passed it through their several stomachs by
Hmm.
regurgitating it and chewing it again. So you're just like, okay, it's not as gross as you think. It's just strong. Pig shit, on the other hand, is just evil.
Okay.
It's just the worst, and just to have to deal with it by the acre.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's it's strong, but at the same time, like, you just there's an earthy traditional smell to it where you're like, yeah, it smells bad, but it's natural, you
Mm,
know?
yeah, I guess.
Like, because even like to me, the worst smelling thing, like, where it's just like, oh, this smells terrible, is if it's like super artificial. Like, I can't go into like I have a hard time, like, going into like Bed Bath and Beyond, or like candle stores.
Hmm.
I get really up, like, it even though, like, it's nothing but pleasant smells, it really offends me. Like I get and when I say that, I mean, like, it's just a very reaction of like, I don't want to be here. I don't like the smell of this. This smells too fake. It's too much, because it's all chemical,
Hmm.
as opposed to, like, yeah, it's out, but it's pastoral, and it's natural. So, but I'm weird with smells. I don't mind the smell of skunks. I'm fine with it. But other
Okay.
people are like, oh, it smells terrible. I'm like, it smells fine.
So your answer would be pig shit.
Pig shit is just, it's vile. It's just so,
I mean,
yeah.
I've been on a farm a few times in grade school on field trips. I don't remember pig shit being specifically that horrible. That maybe there weren't enough pigs, I guess. So I don't know.
It's because they're omnivores and they eat anything,
Hmm.
and they have a quick digestion. It just rot. It's just a different kind of rot.
Okay.
So, like, you get like, there's the smell of dead,
Okay.
but which is a terrible smell anyway.
Hmm.
But then, like, you get that just like smell of ammonia, and just rot, and it's just, yeah.
It attacks you from different angles at the same
Yeah.
time. All right. Question 8. When did you screw everything up, but no one ever found out it was you?
Okay, it wasn't a screw up for me. It was a screw up for everyone else. And this is kind of like the biggest. This is the biggest heist I ever did, and I am so happy about this. In high school, someone pulled the fire alarm during lunch,
Okay.
and everyone knew it was like, they're like, oh, okay, it's like, it's not a real fire, because like, everyone had walkie talkies, but we were in the middle of lunch, and everyone's just like, I gotta leave my lunch here, and I gotta go out, and like, are we gonna have time to have our lunch, and like, is it gonna be cold? And we always were in the back of the lunchroom, because we were dorks and we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, and everyone hated us. But I took my sweet time walking out of that cafeteria, and I stole so much food. I I had cargo pants with just tons of pockets,
Yes.
and I just stole so many little Debbie snack cakes. I took I took my tray with me, and I would just grab a handful of people's fries, and like, there was like a couple of stacks of pizza, like a couple of slices of pizza and chicken nuggets, and I went out there, and like, everyone was like, oh, I should have brought my food. They were so mad. But like I came back and everyone was like, oh. But I guess like people thought that it was a couple of different people, but nobody knew it was me doing all of it. And
Nice.
it was I mostly where people sit. So you're like, okay, this like, oh, it's these guys. Yeah, I'm definitely stealing their food.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my best heist.
Yeah, nice. Well done. Question 9. What is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
So I've been watching the impeachment hearings, and it's just it's just been fascinating to watch people just try to professionally deny accountability. It's fascinating. It's fascinating to me. Like, it's just people trying to dodge accountability. It is absolutely fascinating. Like people have been riding a wave of just like, no, it says it like, he said it like it is. He said what we're all thinking. It's just like, okay, here are the consequences. Well, we didn't think that. That wasn't that, like, bullshit.
Yeah,
bullshit.
absolutely.
Like, and at the same time, it's just like, hey, we're just asking you to be responsible. I don't care if you do, if you feel that way and you are so angry toward other people because you've been lied to. That sucks. I get that. But at the same time, consequences, man. That's how you learn. That's how you become a better person. You can still have whatever beliefs you want, but you have to understand that there are consequences to it.
Yeah. What do you think will happen with all this?
I don't know. I don't like to speculate. I get too anxious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I understand.
With my with my depression, with my anxiety, everything that's happened in the past year has been just amplified. And one of the things that has kind of helped me is just like, okay, you can't control the past, you can't control the future, but you can live in the present. And just kind of like just observing how the present is being dealt with. Yeah.
At the same time, I mean, I agree with you, but at the same time, it is so frustrating to listen to the news. And yeah, I mean, okay, I'm not American. That's fine. But something tells me that they're gonna get away with it. I hope I'm wrong.
There's going to be a fall guy, I think. I think it's not going to be. I think it's going to end up where nobody is happy with the results. And honestly, sometimes those are like the best situations where it's like nobody ends up happening. That's a compromise.
Yeah, that's the best definition of a compromise.
Yeah. So best case, and it even talking about it stresses me out a little. I just hope that like we're just seeing the consequences of actions, and hopefully people will bring that into their own lives.
Yeah, and learn from it. Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully.
Experience is the best teacher.
Yes.
We're getting plenty of it.
Yes, that's true. Absolutely. All right, so 2 less depressing things, hopefully. Question 10. If you were given a 1-minute ad slot during the Super Bowl that you couldn't sell, you have to use it, what would you fill it with?
So this is interesting because the Super Bowl was down the street this year.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah, my wife has actually performed there singing the national anthem with her choir.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, and I thought about this. Hey, everybody, like it would just be like a straight up, here's how to wear a mask correctly. Here's why it doesn't matter. Here's why it matters. Here's why it doesn't really affect how much oxygen you're getting. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but like, here's how to do it in a way that's just like easy to understand. It's not political. It's just safe and easy. It's just like, hey, let's all do this because, and then just kind of show like some kind of like, if everybody did this, this is the result. So let's do this, huh? Let's do this fun. like let's try to go for this, and then we won't have to deal with this anymore. Because the longer people do the dick nose thing where they wear it right here or wear around the chin, the longer people do that, the longer this is going to take. Yeah. So that's like the serious answer. The fun answer, and I'm still mad that Hob the Troll won't be getting it because of Josh's answer. Like he kind of backed out. I'm still waiting for my check. I think a great prank would be just that, like, it would just go to the emergency bars, like the test pattern. It would just go for a test pattern for 1 minute. So everybody watched me like, no, what? No, was it? What?
Get my gun.
Well, not even that. They would just like, I don't think they would just panic for like a minute, and it would just be like, is the game coming back? Is it? And it would just be like, technical difficulties will be solved. Just like, I think that would be a fun prank.
Just to mess with them.
Just for a minute.
All right. That works. Are you good for some overtime? I got another section. Yeah, all right.
Let's do it.
Rock on. Okay, so question 1. You are going back in time and wind up face-to-face with 15-year-old you. You have 10 seconds before you travel back to the present day. What do you tell your younger self?
Okay, don't trust Abe. You can find better friends. You're going to be okay. Keep on doing music. Find your way to another country. Her name is April Janowski. She lives in Livonia.
Oh, okay, that was close, but yeah, okay, good. All right, that works. Question 2. If you could live in anyone's head for 15 minutes, a la being John Malkovich, so only as a spectator, you cannot control them, who would you, past or present, who would you choose?
So I really like this question, and I like Glenn had said he would want to live in his wife's head for 15 minutes, and that was fascinating. So I think the answer is I would live in the head of Glenn's wife.
Okay.
No, I don't know. No, but like I understood like what he was trying to say, like the inner like the inner thoughts.
Yes.
That's really it's really fascinating. But no, I think it would be I think I'd choose my grandfather. Not my maternal grandfather, my paternal grandfather. I never met him. He died when my dad was 12, and I know very little about him. And I think I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I get that completely. All right, so question 3. You are on death row. Tomorrow it's over, but you get to choose the way you will be executed, no matter the logistics involved. You can go big or small, whatever you want. So how do you want to go?
Old age. Nope. I will cite precedent for this. There is there was a jester in the Middle Ages who pissed off his king, and like he was going to be executed. He's like, all right, well, since you did that, you get to choose your method of execution. And he said, I wish to die of old age. And the king was like, I didn't specify that. That's funny. Oh, okay, but you're fired. Cool. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think, but because you said like, go big. It doesn't matter the, like if the
but
because you said the sentence happens tomorrow. The sentence, so tomorrow is literally the first day of the rest of my life.
I don't remember how I phrased it, but it's over tomorrow. Your life is over tomorrow. That's what I meant.
Then I have to start a new one.
Ah, Christ! I didn't know you were a lawyer in a previous life. Okay, so well done. You played the system perfectly, and that
right.
Yeah, that works absolutely.
Old age.
Yep. All right. Okay, so question 4. Your superpower is that you can give phobias to people. You can give them fears. So what would you make people afraid of?
I just wouldn't use that power. I just like if I had that ability, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna use that. I don't want to like, and I like other people's answers of like I'd make them afraid of, greed. That's a great answer. But at the same time, like this kind of goes into the whole like every episode of the Twilight Zone or every story where someone is granted a wish, if they use that wish, it goes wrong. So like if I had that power, I just wouldn't use it because I don't want to make anybody's like I can have the best intentions, right? To use this power. I know that, fate or whatever caused me to have this power is going to find a way to do something wrong with that. I think I would just get like maybe I would maybe give the fear of losing. I'd make them afraid of losing what they had. But at the same time, maybe that's what they, I don't know. I don't know if I had that power, I don't think I would use it because I think that'd be the best use of that power is to not use it.
Or maybe there would be unintended consequences.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with the unintended consequences, and despite my best effort, so I would like, with great power comes great responsibility. Mm-hmm. All right, well then that means like some of that. What that sometimes means is you just don't use that power to make sure that you keep hold of that responsibility, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah,
like,
okay.
I know it's a non-answer, but like maybe make and also like if I could adjust the degree of fear, I'd make and just like well, okay, that guy is going to be really afraid. Like the guy who cut me off is going to be really afraid to hear a Journey song on the radio. Sure. Great. Like, it turns it off. Like something real small, like, you know, just like something goofy and inconsequential as opposed to like really, really big stuff.
All right. Okay. Question 5. What is the best compliment you've ever received?
Wow. So it has the same effect as a compliment. All right. When I was doing the podcast, when I was doing the Hobcast, I would talk to people, and I would talk to, you know, comedians I really liked and performers I really liked. And if I could make them laugh, I remember their laughs that I said something funny and I remember their laugh. Right. And it hits me in a way that like a verbal compliment of like, you know, hey, you did a good job on that. It hits differently because it's not words, it's a reaction. And it's so earnest and honest, you know? I've become casual friends with the comedian Jackie Cation. I've been on her podcast. She's been on mine. I'm friends with her husband, and like we play a online we play a phone app game together. But I got to have lunch with her and Maria Bamford.
Okay.
And I got to make Maria Bamford laugh. And God, like that's like, you know, someone who's made me laugh so much and I make them laugh. There's nothing better than that. Like I like the compliments that I get, and like because if somebody says something nice about me, I have enough about my own mental problems where I'm like, oh, did they mean that? Like, what are they like? Are they just saying something nice because they want something out of me? I'm I'm nuts, right? But if I make somebody laugh, and that, you know, and that could be, you know, that could be my friends, it could be my family. Making April laugh is the best thing in the world. Like, but anytime I can make somebody who I find really funny or I really love and care about, if I can make them laugh, that's the best compliment.
All right. No. Good call. Question 6. What is your hometown best known for?
It is not known. It's not known. It's called Ortonville. It's small. It's not great. There's nothing really going on. I think there are 2 stoplights.
Okay.
And a McDonald's, and that's it. Yeah, it's not really known for anything. It's known for as a place where people raise kids or just kind of go to, you know, die. It's bleak, but it is. It's just like there's nothing really there. Their ice cream is exceptional. I will say that. No, yeah, like that dairy farm I worked for. Mm-hmm. It is family owned and operated for a couple generations, and it has been like people have tried to, like big companies have tried to buy it out a couple of times, and they're just like, no, we have a system that works here. We're gonna keep doing it. The ice cream is so good and so fresh, and it's right there. I'll say that it's known for that, and it is the best ice cream I have ever had in my entire life. I will take people like if I have the chance to take them there after like I give them the depressing Stevo tour. I'm like, all right, we're going to get ice cream.
All right. Okay. Yeah,
Cook's
good.
Farm Dairy in Ortonville, Michigan. Check it out, folks.
All right. Okay, so question 7. What is the best insult you've ever heard?
Oh, I don't want to get dark.
Too late.
So I know so the guy who wrote the Bastard Monk Show, is his name is Christopher Buhlman, and he works at festival. He works at this festival as Christoph the Insulter. He is a professional insulter, and anything I would say that I've heard has come out of that man's mouth as like some of the best insults, and like he's written them, he's kind of crafted them, and I can't do them justice. So look up Christoph the Insulter. It's Christoph with an E at the end. And he's a mercenary. So what he does is like you pay him to insult your friend, and it is like for $20 he'll insult your friend. For $30 he'll insult the shit out of your friend. For $50 he'll really insult the shit out of your friend, and for $100 your friend won't be your friend anymore.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Wow. And you get your money's worth, I suppose.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like there was, I can't do it justice, but it was something along the lines of like, people look at you and are reminded why they are pro-choice. Like why not go back in time and rip the convict off the preteen in the back of the in the back of a 7-Eleven so you wouldn't be conceived, something like that. Jesus. It was just visceral.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay. So yep, look it up. Christoph the Insulter.
Yeah.
Christoph with an E, like the French spelling. All right.
Yes.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Question 8. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, and language is not an issue, past or present, dead or alive, same thing, who would it be and why?
So, you want to go, the standard answer is like to go, famous people and, through time and history. Mm-hmm. But right now, I just really miss my friends. Some of the best times I've ever had in my life were after a day of festival, and me and my friends from the Mud Show, and like we would go out to dinner afterwards, and we've just spent a whole day entertaining people and making folks laugh professionally and being paid well to do it, and then just at the end of the day, just making each other laugh. Like, yeah, right now. In the time we are at and the place we're at, I'd give anything to do that again right now.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like and that's like between Albert Einstein and all of the standard answers, all the people you've ever wanted to meet. Yeah, sure, great. I want to see my friends again. I want to see my dumb friends. I want us to have bad Mexican food, and I want to laugh all night.
And can you get in touch with them? Are they reachable?
Yeah, I can. It's weird. We're all kind of scattered to the 4 winds. And that's part of the lifestyle. That's part of it. But like,
and online, it's not the same thing, of course.
It really isn't. Yeah. Like there's some. And I think that the origin of this question is it gets to the root of like how people actually connect, and the best place people connect is around the table eating food.
That's true.
And so like just I'd give up. I would give up the opportunity to discuss the meaning of life with all the greatest thinkers that humanity's ever done, just to spend some time with my dumb friends again.
All right. Okay, question 9. What's the biggest surprise you've had over the last few months?
So when COVID hit and all of my contracts were severed, I just didn't know. I didn't know I'd work again. I didn't know when. And I'd see people doing, live shows and, all that kind of stuff. But what I was doing, as Hob didn't really, I'd never really thought it would translate to what it is, but I did that Christmas song, just kind of as let's see what'll happen. I didn't expect anything to come out of it, but yeah, that it was just nice to see like, oh, I'm still a performer. I still have this in me. Because, I've just been like really doubting myself, and hey, is all this time and energy that I put into it, has it been worth it? And just to kind of get a little glimmer of like, it's all right. You still have this in you. That was the surprise I needed.
Nice. Next question would be question 10. It seems to be getting darker and darker, and it's not.
No, we're good. We're
I
good.
didn't do that on
We're
purpose.
it's okay. We're getting real, man. That's like,
Ah,
yeah.
we are. So, question 10 would be, what keeps you up at night?
I've been able to get to sleep a lot better lately, because I've always struggled with depression and anxiety and mental illness, and a lot of it's come out of trauma, you know. But the fact that everybody is experiencing some level of that right now, that once we have a better understanding of how, you know, of all of this, I think we're going to be able to relate to each other on a much closer level. And I'm looking forward to that, and that we're going to be able to do that, and that I'll be able to kind of talk about my experiences with mental health and my struggles. And I know that everybody's going to be able to have that experience if they want to. I'm able to sleep a lot better.
Yeah, I hope you're right about that. That people will learn from this.
Yeah, and you know, for better and worse. Like it's not going to be great for folks. I know it's not great now, and I know how much stuff like this can affect everything, and that can keep you up at night. But the other side of that is just kind of just being like, well, now we all are able to relate.
Yeah.
And if you're able to relate to somebody and you're able to, you know, connect and talk to them and listen to their experiences, it's going to make things better.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Okay,
I
question. Go ahead.
Well, I am hopeful. You know, I could be fearful that, you know, it wouldn't, and that could keep me up at night. But I'm actively choosing to say, like, well, let's try thinking like this. So yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to be too obvious, but I think the one thing that we dodged a bullet is the election. I don't want to think what would have happened if.
Oh no.
Yeah, so let's not even go there because
Nope.
holy shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So, question 11, and that's the last one. What is your sliding doors moment? The fork in the road. Like you do this and your life turns into something else entirely, or you do that, the fork, you know?
Yeah. I had a definite moment with that,
Okay.
and I saw like, and it was um I saw both sides of it. I saw like, um, hey, if this person hadn't have gotten in their car and done, you know, and done this, it would have resulted in this. And then I was cut, and so like, uh, I'm trying not to be too specific. And I know it's, you know, it's nothing. It's nothing explosive. It's nothing, you know, that, but it's kind of personal for me. But I've seen what happens if you go chasing after the other possibility.
Okay.
Like, um, you know, you always wonder, like, oh, what if, you know, what if this would have happened? If you go chasing after what could have happened instead of focusing on what has happened, that's not a good way to be.
Why not? Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, but there was a time where I made a friend, and had their car not been towed, things would have been a lot different. If they would have parked 3 feet in a different spot, yeah, it's one of those.
That
Like
close.
it, yeah,
Okay.
like if they would have parked like 3 feet away, you know, who knows what would have happened. I was just so conscious of it at the time, and I'm uh, just like, oh, that would have been like, oh, but I wouldn't change what has happened.
So can I speculate? So
Sure.
my guess is, had that car not been towed, that friend and you would have gone somewhere and things would have turned bad.
It would have been different. I don't know if I
Okay,
don't
not
think I
necessarily
don't
bad or better or nothing.
right.
Okay,
Who can say? But
okay,
it would have been different.
vastly different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
And I don't know for better or worse. I don't know. And I thought, like, I tried focusing on that a little bit too much, and it really stressed me out. And then I just kind of realized you can't do that. You can't look to the past because you're gonna miss what's happening in the future. You're gonna miss what's happening in the present.
or you're not gonna enjoy what's going on right now because what if, what if, what if, what if?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's the questions, pretty much. So I gotta thank you for ttaking the time to do this today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Where can we reach you online?
Just at Hob the Troll on Twitter. I'm on there a lot. I'm going to be probably deactivating Facebook or soon, or just spending less time on it, just for a while anyway. I use it to connect with people in the way I think it was meant to, where it was just like, hey, this friend should talk to this friend. I like doing that, and I like recommending like, you're looking for a gift for somebody. Oh, check this person out. Like it's a good platform for that.
Mm-hmm.
If Facebook is used for that, great. That's what it should be. If it's used to fight with your neighbor, fuck that, man.
Yep, yep,
People are using it the wrong way, so I'm going to take a dip for a bit.
yep. I agree with you 100%. I post. Well, I mean, I don't travel anymore because we know why.
Yeah,
And for that reason, I post like 90% less, and I feel fine with that.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know? Ah, God. The internet is like it's like a city.
yeah.
You can go to the library, learn new stuff, or you can go behind the dumpster and shoot up. you know, Same
Oh my
shit.
god. Yeah. That's so good, because yeah, you have at your fingertips the thoughts and feelings of some of the greatest minds at all time, but what do we use it for? Like, no, this Star Wars movie is shitty. What
Exactly.
what
I know. We have the best tools, and we cannot help ourselves. We fuck it up. We use it to spew hate and all kinds of horrible things.
but we also use it to do what you're doing. We're getting to know our friends better. So let's keep doing that.
Let's focus on the good stuff.
That's right.
Focus on the positive stuff. All right. So, yeah, on this positive note, I wish you listeners a good rest of the week, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.